Hello, welcome to week 4 of our class. Hopefully we have some good insights as far as our evaluations of our peers this week. Let's go through and kind of talk about the pieces of content that we should be familiar with this week. Let's go back and try that again. This is what I want to share with you. Good. We're on the right page now. Just reviewing and looking at this week in context here. We're going to go through looking at some insides and outs of schools and classrooms and understanding a little bit more about technology and the teaching pedagogies that go along with that, as far as providing instruction for others, students, peers. It depends on what kind of role that you play within your school or environment. There are opportunities for you to use this technology and technologies we show in this class in multiple ways. All of these things I've used myself through my dissertation process and evaluating teacher instructional practices to improve learning, and really using those to help facilitate adults to get better with their pedagogy. So let's take a look at kind of some of those learning outcomes and what we're expecting to do for this week. Since there's no context, no book for this course, make sure you're checking the Evernote channel, the shared piece in there, to kind of look and help guide the conversations. Again, with our discussion modules, we should respond to the original posts of the people who are using our discussions this week, who are posting and kind of leading the discussion forum. And when you do that, we want to make sure that we are using some scholarly work to back up our opinions or insights or information that we're sharing. It makes a more complete and a way to kind of share more information, and because our students can go back and look up something that you may have said that they want to use in their capstone course and actually look up the reference that it came from. It becomes a great resource for all the students involved in every course as you move along. So kind of think when you do your original post in response to the question, that first one should have some context of scholarly literature that you might need to cite to share with people where you've got that information, and kind of steer ourselves away from general opinion or what you might think or what you see. Those are great as add-ons to a conversation, but the original post response to a question in a discussion forum usually wants some scholarly text involved in that also. So that's something to kind of look at when we look into our discussion modules. Again, each of our course modules have a message for you to look at. It's always a nice thing to kind of go back and kind of do an evaluation of where you stand and what you can do to kind of strengthen your walk. But we'll lead this into our discussion for week 4. Claire and Shelley, you guys are leading the discussion this week. So tonight, hopefully you've posted something for others to respond to Wednesday and Thursday. Check the schedule here. It's on there for when your turn and what your week is. If you started with us a little bit late, you're on the schedule. I try to push you back to the later weeks. So take a look at that to make sure you know when your time is up, and kind of think about questions that you'd like to post as you lead the discussions for us. In our assignment this week, we're going to look at evaluating some of our peers, and hopefully we're using, well, you have to, let's not hope, using the classroom observational tool provided by ISTE. ISTE has a lot of standards, which we call NETs. They have some for online instruction, some for blended learning programs, some for class teacher evaluations, classroom evaluation tools, and how the classroom is being structured, or the presentation of the content or the pedagogy that's in there. So take a look at it. They also have some definition of how that should be used. And so there's some instructions on how to actually pull that file and see what's look at as far as that is concerned. It is an Excel file. I usually enable the macros on the Excel file so that I have the opportunity to manipulate and then provide feedback to ISTE if they need. Our rubric for this assignment is as stated, and there's the big things in here to look at. We're meeting the nets for students and how those are evaluated. Everyone is looking for that 18 to 20 points, I'm sure, on here. So all elements are thoroughly completed. The setting, the group, the teacher, the role, the activities, the rating, the text used, and the nets that were there. And when it says the nets that are there, that means you've actually looked at the nets for students. And you want to be able to report on what those nets are. And so that's a portion of this assignment, is to go in and say that, you know, they use number 1.2 and they looked at the utilization of technology through the pedagogy to support students in their entrepreneurialism or whatever it is that the context that you're using within those nets, okay? And then we're going to do an analyzation. Okay, this is just a way to present information. You can look at, if you do anything is compare and contrast, or give a definition of what was seen. You could look at some historical pieces and bring those into your analysis and description in the paragraphs that you write. And then professional language, clear communication sequence, strong supporting information. This is where it's not explicitly stated here when we say language, but it's the section as I go through and grade. We're looking at APA, the formatting, the citations. Make sure that if you're citing text, it's in the appropriate APA format, and that you include that into a reference piece as far as your final presentation or paper, so it's clearly understood what the source material is from. And so that's something that sometimes we forget when we're doing project-based pieces, is that we still need to be able to cite sources and things where they come from. And I'm going to go bounce into the actual ISTE file itself real quick. So let me go do that so you get an idea of what that looks like. It's a multiple piece that comes with the instructions for the classroom observation tool. There are tabs down here, so you need to look at, do we want to enable the macros? What does that mean? How would I use it if I did? The observation itself, how you use it, what code you might use to put the information in, the data stored or clear form. But you'll see the setting on there, the groups, the role of the teacher that the teacher played during the piece, the activities that were presented, the rating that you received or you're giving for that, what technologies were used, and there's a multitude of technologies both used from the teacher's perspective and the student's perspective. So take a look at those pieces before you bounce into to look at one of your peers present a lesson. Creativity, what things from nets, and so here are the initial nets pieces of the creativity, communication, influencing thinking, citizenship, tech opportunities. And so you're going to select these, but these are what we're going to define in our paper as what we saw. If you're looking at, you know, periods of time to actually do a record of time over learning, and you can see what's happened for each individual student as you do that. And it actually will auto fill the pieces in here after you've completed the amount of time. The information then bounces to the data storage piece for each section. So if you want to do that, any definitions of individual sections that you want to look more at what that does. So if I went to the observation tool and I clicked on I want to see what the date does, it bounces me over to the explanation piece. It says, well, this is the date, this is the way I need to put it in there. So I can go through and insert the date appropriately. I look at project, it tells me what the project is. Then I can go through and actually put in the right code for the project. So it is pretty resourceful and pretty teacher friendly for looking at the information that's being presented there. And ISTE has in the past asked for people to repost these back to them so they can collect data. And on the research portion of ISTE, they actually like to see resources used and what's happening in the classrooms out there. And they kind of norm those evaluations and norm those pieces when they look at their nets as when they move forward. So that's something we want to take a look at for this week, okay? Kind of a busy week with a lot of schools finishing out this week or next. We know that's going to get kind of hectic for everyone, being teachers. Hopefully this goes well for you actually this week 4. It's not too intensive of a project or assignment. One thing we want to remember is that coming up very shortly, we have ourselves a field trip. I'm trying to see if I can book a virtual field trip on a certain day through some technology labs, and so that may be difficult to actually get done, but hopefully by that time we'll get to be able to see some emerging technologies next week. And so if I do it, even though it's a virtual field trip, I'll try and ask some questions of the virtual field trip person and post it as part of our weekly video, and give us the opportunity to ask questions if possible through a discussion board and have that carried out through the week. And so look for that. So if you see the virtual field trip piece, it may be a recorded piece with some questions generically asked. But I'll ask the person if they can be part of our discussion. I'll help to facilitate that back and forth, maybe through third-party technologies. But if you have something that you really want to go see, you think it's an emerging technology and you really want to write on that instead of anything that we post, feel free to go right ahead and do that. You don't have to let me know in advance. I just will try to provide opportunities for students who can't get out and go see something, so they're not trying to find something and run around at the end of a week, which could be kind of hectic as we finish out schools. Again, have a good week. Blessed be with you. I've graded the mass majority of things that were up there. I had some questions this week. I'd like to review any questions at the end of our topic pieces. The things that I've noticed the most within generic grading is citations within discussion posts, or citations within assignments. And whenever we do presentations, I think that's from week 1, that we do want to make sure that we're citing any videos or pictures. There's a correct way through APA to actually cite where those sources came from. Even if they're open source pieces, they're made for public use. Google has a good product where they actually do search, and you can search by open source material. We still want to give credit to those people. Sometimes you can use with a site only, and those are usually the better pictures, and some are not used for public consumption. So take a look at that and how people really want their materials to be used. And I'm going to do it real quick just to kind of give you an idea of what I'm talking about, so it's not this abstract thing. And so let me go into an ISTE Classroom, and I can use the search tools, and I can look for and be able to define more of what I want to look at, how I want it to look, how I want it to rate. I can go into custom searches. Other good things are like Google Scholar, but there are pieces that we want to make sure that we have open sources available to us. Got any bad pictures? It's always weird when you go surfing live. So I can click on Safe Search. But then you can look for, do I want these tools to be usage rights, and how do I want to be able to use these pictures? And so label for non-commercial, which is asked for reuse. You can modify, label for reuse with modifications. So, and these are no filter license. So if you click on one of those, you may bounce out of all the products that are possible. And so take a look on how those are being presented and what the usage purpose for those are, because some people do not want their pictures and things used. Okay, and that's just a general kind of disclaimer on when we do presentations as we move forward, to make sure that we have some citations for anything that was used, and hopefully that is an open source for you to use. So hopefully that helps out with some of the pieces, just the searching and the grading as we move forward, and we get some more projects where you want to include some pictures that you found on the web. If they're original pictures from you, you don't have to do any citations. Usually you just put a date. The weird caveat too, when you're looking at any student information, is that you need to have a photo release form on file. Supposedly, I'm not going to go check, but we want to make sure we're doing things people the right ways to do them as we become the educated technology leaders on our campuses. Well, again, have a great week. If you have any questions, feel free to give me an email. That's been the most popular way for discussion so far. If you have any manic instantaneous responses that you need, that is within the 24-hour period, go ahead and text me to the phone number that I provided on the instructor site.